Hi, this is Misha at Citizenserve. We offer community development software online through the cloud. We're staring at the Citizenserve homepage, and I want to point out the different modules that are included in our subscription. We have a module for licensing, one for code enforcement, one for permitting, one for planning and zoning, one for request tracking, and our online portal that's geared towards our municipality's constituents. Today's demo is going to be about request tracking. And to start off, we're going to visit the online portal so that we can submit a request as a citizen. So here is our out-of-the-box module for our portal. It's a configurable page, so you can have your logo at the top. We can change the color scheme. We'll present only the services that you want to offer. This is meant to be a one-stop shop for your constituents. So when they come to the site, we want to teach them about your processes. For requests, you can submit right from the home page, but you can also go to a services page and select request tracking. And here's another page that we would configure to have information about your request process. I'm going to show you a couple of other features of the portal, and then we'll jump in and submit a request. So let's go over to reports. Report writing is included in your subscription. We have map reports, pie chart reports, list reports, and on the staff side, we can do mail merges for you. I'm going to run this code complaint report so that you can see what a map report looks like in the system for your constituents. And remember, we're not logged in yet, so we're here as Jane and Joe Q Public. I'm going to put in a date range from the beginning of 2019, and we'll do it to the beginning of this year. When I submit, it's going to pull in all of the code complaints that have been logged within that time frame, and you can see the map pins have appeared on the page. So because this is a map report, I can click on the pin and I'll get additional information about this case. But hopefully you also recognize the background, right? This is Google Maps in the background. So we can use all the features of Google Maps, including dragging and centering. We can zoom in. We can go to satellite view. And we can even take the street view guy and drop him right on the road. And then we can take a look around the neighborhood. So that's an example of a report that you can offer to your constituents. We write them on the staff side. It's very easy to expose them on this side, and report writing is included in your subscription. I want to take you to the contacts page. It's another page that we want to configure to include your department information. If we can provide this information to your constituents and save you maybe a counter visit or an email, then we think it's space well served. So there's one more cool thing I want to show you about the portal before we submit a request, and that's that the portal was built with HTML responsive design. What that means is if we come to this site on our iPhones, the content on the site is going to shrink to fit our smaller screen in a logical way. So instead of getting 2 columns of data on the contacts page, we get 1 column of data, and we're able to click all of our links. The same would be true if we came to this on a tablet, right? The content is going to stretch and fill our screen in a logical way. There we go. Now, we can still navigate, we can still use all the features, but we think this is a really important feature because with so many devices that serve browsers these days, we can't dictate how our users access the site. And with this, we don't have to. So now, let's jump in and we'll submit a request. So first, you're delivered to the login page. So existing users can log in if they have an account. New users would just go to the Register Now page. This is a page that will allow them to select their registration type. For the town of Buena Vista, we have 4 types, but you can define as many registration types as you need. I'm going to show you a sample contractor registration so you can see the fields that we're collecting for this registration type. Anything with a red pipe in front of it is a required field, and you get to dictate what data we collect, what's required. So for the contractor, here are all the data fields we need. And we've decided we also want to collect workers' compensation insurance information, liability insurance. We want them to upload some forms. So we can add as many additional fields as you need using our custom fields. I'm going to switch registration types and show you the anonymous type to show that each of these types can have their own form that we would make up with custom fields. The anonymous type would just be for submitting a complaint or a request. You can't submit a permit with an anonymous registration. This registration allows your users to submit the request or complaint anonymously, but then they could log back into the system with the credentials that they create for themselves right here, and they'll be able to track the status of that request. So let's go back and let's log in with my account. And now we're taken to the Submit a Request page. So let's type in that there's a street light out, maybe at 4th and Benson. Now I'm going to select my type. The type can be used to route your workflow to different departments. So we have 4 different types listed here, but anytime you see a drop-down in the system, those are configured fields. This is going to be a request related to a specific address or location. Now, it's not going to have a parcel address, but when I type in 4th and Benson, that's an intersection. Now, we want to integrate with your parcel data. And if you want, we can require good parcel addresses on your applications. But in cases like this, you may want to require, or you may want to accept any type of address. So when I click Find Address, it's searching through all of my parcel records. It didn't find a match, but it's going to allow me to just use this intersection. So that's a configuration point on each application. So now we're being asked for a general type for this request, and these are all the types that have been defined. So if I picked an animal issue, the next category question is about animal-related issues, but this is a street, sidewalk, and traffic signal issue. So when I select this category or this general type, then I'm asked for street-specific categories, and in this case, we'll pick street light. Now we're asked to describe the request in detail. So we'll provide some additional details here, and we're allowed to upload a photograph. Now this is a file selector, but we could also give your constituents a camera option. They can take a photo from their device. So there's my picture of a burnt out light bulb. And now our last field is a signature. So I'll just use my mouse and we'll create a signature, and then I'll save. Now, I'm going to submit this application or this request, but I want to point out if I weren't ready, I could click Save for Later, and it would save this request in my profile. But let's go ahead and submit. So the system has scanned through all the required fields. If I were missing one, it would prompt me to fill one in. But since I filled them all in, I get this message that my request has been received. Meanwhile, the system has sent me an email in the background. So let's open up that system-generated email, and you can see the template. So this is the out-of-the-box template, but of course it's done in HTML, so we can configure it to your needs. We can change the color scheme, we can change the content, we can add your logo. The only thing I suggest you absolutely don't change is this link that will help your applicant get back to the portal so they can get the status of that request. So let's close out of this email. We'll click OK here, and let's go see what this request looks like from the portal. So in my inbox, have all of these different types of applications and requests, but your applicants are only going to see the items that they've submitted. So if they've only done requests, they won't get all of those categories. And here we can see our light out at 4th and Benson. So when we click on the hyperlink, it opens the file for us. You can see we have some tools. We can upload documents or leave a message. We have file information here, and we have tabs in the center. The request tab is going to show the request information, the questions and the answers. The activities tab is going to show when activities are completed. And the documents tab is going to show any documents that have been created or uploaded. So now let's jump over to the staff side, and we'll see how staff can process these requests. And here we are logged in as Lucas Andrews. He's in the code department, and he's the first person that's assigned a task on this streetlight issue. So let's talk about his dashboard, and then we'll jump in and look at the request. During implementation, our staff sets up dashboards for each of your staff members. But when your staff are in the system, they can configure their own dashboards to work in the way that works best for them. Lucas's dashboard has his task list first. You can see he's got 2 tasks displayed with these blue due date bars. Now, at the top, these boxes are filter bars. So the red items are overdue. If you see, if I hover my mouse over, I get the category name. So if we click on 23, it's going to filter to just show those 23 items. And if we want to just look at today's, I'm going to click that too. You can do the same thing by status as well. Now, the next group of items are called chart metrics. This is what we consider a very visual graphical report of a process. It gives you information just at a glance. So on the code close times, we can see that there are different categories that are related to different time periods, right? How long is it taking to close these? So this is helpful information. You can see that most of them are getting closed at 31 to 60 days. It's helpful at a glance, but you can also click on the metrics segment and you get a list of files that make up that metric. And because we're browser-based, you can click on the first file or any of the hyperlinks on those files, and it'll open you into a new tab so that you can do your work here, save your changes, and then close the tab. It brings you right back to that original metric you were on. Now, I said earlier that metrics are like a report. That means if you want changes to them or if you want a new metric created, it's very easy to do that. If you looked at this form and you said, this is great, but I just need 2 more fields of data on this form and then I could really get some work done, it's really simple to request that. So let's close this metric down and I'll show you how to submit a support request through Support Center. On the left-hand side, we just expanded the Support Center menu and we clicked Submit a new request, and this form has popped up. We just pick our category. A metric would be something else, and then we can describe what we need. Your contact information is filled out here. You can just save it off, and that sends your request to support. We've got an 85% same-day turnaround, so things like metrics and reports are returned very quickly to you. So that's a little bit about chart metrics. We have another type of metric called a trend metric. So a trend metric displays all of its information on the tile. You can't click to dive in. The inspections by date shows you all of your inspections by month, plus it gives you totals for the year and averages by the month. We also have things like year-to-year inspections or violations closed to show you trends over time. If you have another idea for a trend metric that would help you to analyze your system, you can just request that from Support Center. Scrolling down, we see these report metrics. All he needs to do is click and run the report. This is going to open a map report of open code cases. And here's that map report of open code cases by type. You can export these or you can print these out. Now, the last item on this user's dashboard is user locations. You can see we have some users in different parts of the world. Let's zoom into our location here. So this is pinning Lucas Andrews because I'm logged into his account. I can click this link. This window will give a trail of where this user has logged into the system, so you'll be able to see their inspection history. Now, to configure this page, you just press the Configure button. As you can see from this window, we also have a tool for unassigned tasks. We have a tool for My Calendar, and this user doesn't use either of those tools. If they wanted to, they could just check the boxes to add it to the system. And you can use these up and down arrows to reorder your items. Let's go up to our request and let's process it. So let's open the file for our request and take a look around. And now it opens the file for us. A general file is the request type, or it's the file type for a request. It lists the file number, the description that we entered, and the location. We're looking at the Files tab. This shows all of the questions that were answered on the portal, and it gives some additional information that is just staff side only. Now, if we go to the Contacts tab, we'll see the contact that's associated with this file. On the Activities tab, we can see if a workflow has been assigned, and in this case, 3 activities are listed. Citizenserve supports both consecutive and concurrent workflows. In this particular workflow, this online request is routed to Lucas. It was assigned today. He has to do it in 1 day. And when it's completed in a good status, it's going to trigger the next activity, which will actually be to install the streetlights. Now, once the streetlights are installed and that work is completed, then this last activity will get triggered to James, and he'll be able to complete the activity and notify the applicant or the requester. The Documents tab is going to show the same documents, and as we generate any additional documents, they'll be listed here. Here we see that system-generated email. There aren't any violations here, but you could track them here if there were any related. We have a Notes field so that you can add a note. You can add items from the left-hand side of the page. We can set a type to say phone call, and let's say that the requester called back, asking for status, and we'll save that note. So on the Activities tab or from his home page, Lucas could click on the activity that's been assigned to him, and maybe he wants to go out and take a look at the map. So the map view is going to take you to your address location. In our case, 4th and Benson is a non-address in the system, but we can scroll through the city and look at items. If we integrate with your GIS, we can pull your GIS layers into the system. Then you could click Display Layers, and you could add any parcel or zoning or whatever layers you have in the system. So I'll pull in the parcel layer so you can see what that looks like. When we click on a parcel, we'll get additional details, if any. But we could also add the zoning layer, and the zoning layer is going to have some color to it. So we can pull in your GIS layers to help your staff navigate their work. So this is an example of an online request activity. This is a form. So if you needed Lucas to log specific things, he could do it in the notes field, but we could also create custom fields that would appear on this activity for him to track this information. We're highlighting the workflow. So from this activity, he could also send an email or generate a letter, or he could upload documents or create follow-up activities right from this activity. When he's done, he simply puts in a completion date and updates the status. And let's save, and we'll see now what's happened to our workflow. Now our online request, we can see that it's completed and it's moved to the bottom. Now a new activity has been assigned to Melissa. It was assigned today and it's due on the 6th. When she completes this task, that will generate a task that's assigned to James. And when James completes his task, then the request will be complete. This is not a required workflow. This is an example workflow. We would work with you, with each of your departments, to determine the workflow that made the most sense for each of their request types. In fact, why don't we take a look at the administration feature so you can see some other workflow types. So we're logged in as our administrative user, and we're going to go into the lookups. I'm going to pick the building department, and I'm going to show you some workflow types that are defined for these permits. Each of these are workflow types, and the workflows can be designed as automatic. So when you submit something through the portal, that workflow is automatically assigned. Or you can have a manual workflow. And when staff create an over-the-counter application, they can choose the workflow that applies. In this case, let's look at this building permit new construction review route. This is assigned to all building permits that are submitted through the system that are new construction. So this route has 7 activities. It tells us the type, the department, the assigned to user, and when this task is due, or when it gets generated. So this first activity gets generated on route assignment, and the user has 1 day, the staff member has 1 day to complete it. Now, the next couple of activities are all generated at the same time after this initial activity is completed. So let's click the ellipsis and you can see additional information about what triggers this notification. So application intake is the one that's selected, and you can route on status. If you say all, then whenever it's completed, it will trigger the activity. But because we want to trigger it only on selected statuses, you can see the statuses that would drive notification to the next group. Now, if the task was denied, you wouldn't want to generate additional review steps, so it's logical. So now let's return to the portal and we'll see what the requester gets to see as they check in on the status of their request. When we click over to the Activities tab, we now see that our task has been updated and it's listed on our form now. The system can also generate automatic emails when those activities are completed to notify the recipient that their task has been completed. So we appreciate your time today investigating request tracking. We invite you to come to the Citizenserve website. There are some really short demos under the Demos tab. They can give you information about the specific services that we offer. You can also take a deeper dive by clicking on the Live Demos tab. And here there are different categories you can click on. So there are 44 items in the building permit software link. These are going to give you more in-depth looks, longer looks at our particular software solutions. And of course, if you'd like to talk to us about a live demo, you can request that at the bottom of nearly all of our pages. And thanks for watching.